Hi, Megan.
Morning, Teepa.
Good morning. How's everybody?
Oh, good morning, Teepa. How
Hello,
are you?
hello. Good to see everyone.
Is it
Morning,
about
good
that?
It's
morning.
nice to actually be able to see people. Yay!
I know. I
It's an
have to
unusual
tell you.
circumstance. We don't always get to do that, you know, so it's nice to. Hey, Megan, how are you? Good to see you.
Yes.
You look like you're having a good morning.
Yeah.
Two thumbs up. Oh, my heavens. Wow, this is a special morning. I'm going to give it 1 thumbs up. I got to go rake the yard in a little bit.
My husband cut down all of our trees, Teepa. My husband cut them all down so we didn't have to rake leaves anymore. So we have no trees.
Well, I don't agree to that. That's not happening. We may have to selectively remove bushes and things, but we're not cutting down everything. I'll just keep raking it. It's good exercise anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
Megan
my
and I are in the
video's
same
putting up
camp.
already.
You do something that's good for your body anyway, so you might as well get out there and do something and not have to go to the gym, since we shouldn't be going to the gym anyway, you know. So there you go, another way to get active.
Absolutely.
So Teepa, I could not sleep last night, I have to tell you, because I was so excited to see you today.
We
and
got to
just
change
talk
this
to you in person.
dynamic. You people with the no sleeping before we get together. I mean, like, that's really good for you. I mean, I'm sleeping before we get together because I'm going, oh, good, this is going to be fun. But it's like, yeah, no, we got to tune that down.
Oh, too funny. I'm just in awe with you and your practices and what you've done for the dementia community. I really am. Hats off to you.
I'm glad I have the opportunity and the gifts that help, because it's all about using whatever gifts we have, you know, and using them for not just one person, but for everybody you touch. I mean, the more you use them, the easier it gets to use them. And then other people have gifts that you discover, you know, which is really cool. And see, this thing that you guys do so easy, it's hard work. I have a hard work with the hard thing. Where do I put it? See it? How do I get my see it? No, wait, there we go. I got it. I can do this thing, but you guys can do this thing.
The heart. Yeah, that's right.
I can do this too. That's an old one.
Absolutely. Well, what do you think, Miss Kathy? You ready to get going?
Yes, of course.
You know, we might have a few that join us, you know, come on a little late, but we'll go ahead and get going. So, just in case there's anyone here that I've never met before, my name's Carly Riggs. I am the engagement director at Down Syndrome of Louisville, and as you can see in our Zoom video here, I am the host of the Kindness Warrior podcast at Down Syndrome of Louisville. So we are not only going to be doing this education session on Zoom, but I'm also recording it for our podcast so that we can reach listeners all over the country. So we are super excited to have our experts on positive approach to care. And I'm going to introduce Miss Kathy Palmer, who is our Down Syndrome of Louisville's positive approach to care expert. And she has gone through the training, and you are a trainer. Is that right, Kathy? Positive approach to care trainer. Okay. Yes. And I'm just going to throw it over to you, Miss Kathy.
Yeah, sure. So good morning, everyone. It's so nice to see you. I've got two wonderful guests with me today. One, of course, is Teepa Snow. She's the founder of Positive Approach to Care. I love Teepa's philosophy and education in the lifelong journey that we have supporting those with dementia in many forms of it. She has a person-centered approach and a relationship-centered approach with our unique individuals. So if we can say hello to Teepa. Teepa, give us a wave.
Hey, everybody.
And then
I say hey. Yeah. I'm from North Carolina and West Virginia. We go hey.
Hey. And then we also have Beth Tesfaye, and she is also a member of PAC. She has been with PAC for 3 years. Beth is a trainer. She's an engagement leader, consultant, coach. She has many roles within PAC. And she's also has been a nurse for over 20 years. So she comes with a wealth of knowledge, and she has been on mentor for the last couple of years as well. I've been able to rely on Beth and shoot her questions and talk with her as she helps me, through all of this. So I'm just excited to have you both, and welcome everybody else. So Teepa, I'm going to be doing some screen sharing for everybody. I've got some things that I'm going to pull up for you, Teepa, and get your input on. And many of it is in your tech program. So let me go ahead and do that.
And while Kathy is getting ready to share her screen, if anyone has questions throughout this, feel free to put them in the chat, and I will help mediate that and get some of your questions answered.
So while Kathy's doing that, one thing I would share with you is before I ever got involved in dementia in a aware kind of way, I actually worked as a teenager with kids with special needs. And it was at the point in time where people were just being aware that putting people living with Down or putting people with autism, young children with autism, into state institutions was like a crappy idea. Now, many families knew that ahead of time, but unfortunately, authorities told people that they were incompetent and this would not result in a good outcome. So they should send them to the state for residential care. And that included people with autism, people with cerebral palsy, these were children, small children. And then there was this very short window of time where they went, well, this was a bad idea. And they started closing all those systems down. Now, some families never bought in, but some families did. And then they received their more older children back and were sort of blown away with, but wait, I thought you were supposed to. And it turns out everybody was wrong. Kids can be remarkable brain changers. And so the reason I have the name Teepa instead of the given name Teena, T-E-E-N-A, which was what my mom came up with, is because of a little boy with autism, a speech problem, and cognitive impairment. And so Michael couldn't say Tina, he called me Teepa. Teepa, tell me toy, Teepa, Teepa, Teepa. And I had Mark, and I had Michael, and I had Andy, and they were all special needs kids, which as a teenager was my fun when I wasn't in school time, supporting families and kids and babysitting and all that stuff. So my early life, I first started off in developmental disability. So I thought I'd share that just to sort of give you a background. And then for 40 years, I've been an OT. So, what can I say?
Yeah,
so
that's amazing. So Teepa, I have pulled up, can everybody see that screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Teepa, I've pulled up the PAC vision, the mission statement, and the core values. And I really feel like, these are very important to your mission and what we're trying to get out there with dementia and helping others learn, especially for caregivers. I think our caregivers nowadays can become stressed very easily. And PAC is one thing that many facets of PAC, I should say, help with our caregivers. So if you could talk a minute about your vision and mission statement and core values, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, and so I use my OT background to help out a little bit. So if everybody can get their hand out and put it facing forward, you'll see we do a lot of things with our hands because we do a lot of things with our hands. And how we do what we do and why we do things with our hands can be really clear to us, but it might not be so clear to the person we're trying to help. And so let's take a look at our hands a little more carefully and take your little finger, your ring finger, and your middle finger and close them down. And what I'd like you to do is have your thumb and your index up. And one of the things I really like to emphasize is do this with your thumb. I'm right. Say that and touch your chest with your thumb. I'm right. You're wrong. I know what's going on. You don't understand. I am the one who's helping you. You need to let me help you. Yeah. So if you just look at this from the side, like not from my point of view as yours, if you were to just look at this visual, this looks like a weapon. I mean, this is not help. This is a weapon. This is me versus you. So what if we did this instead? I'm with you. I stand beside you. I'm here to support you. Or maybe sometimes you might support me. But when people start developing or are living with some brain changes, they're different. They aren't the same as people want them to be, or they used to be, or how they want it. I need it to be. What ends up happening, we start to feel different and apart. And when that happens, the relationship gets cut.
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing, because what's happening there is we don't see ourselves as sharing and caring and supporting one another. I mean, we see it as I'm trying to help you, but you're not. So we're back to this thing. Suddenly it becomes more like a weapon again. So instead, let's try this. Bring the thumb, bring the index finger and the middle finger together. And now move them around a little bit, and now get both hands going here. You realize these are actually called the skill fingers in a human hand. These are the fingers that allow your hand to be skillful. Median nerve distribution. These three fingers, critical. You can't do much other than, or something you shouldn't with these, poke somebody's eyes, do things like that. But also just these two, they just pinch. But when we bring these three together, buttons, zippers, use them to manipulate a utensil, get them to, there's all kinds of remarkable things. Knit, sew, crochet, put a nut on a bolt, take it off. So many things we do are done with skill. And we also call them manipulators, because we use them together to figure things out. So what that means is when we're starting to feel like we're coming apart, maybe having a third party to help us realize, wait, maybe what we're having is changing skill. Maybe what we're seeing is we are somewhat different, but we still, with some work, can find a way to be with one another and enjoy one another and help one another. But it's not an either or, it's doing it together.
Right.
So it's all about, put your thumb up, it's about relationships. Relationships that are authentic. They need to be authentic and true. You can't be faking it. Faking it doesn't work. It's got to come from the heart, from the brain, from the hands. You've got to act with intent, and your intent is to support. But then, do this middle one, we've got to have curiosity about the other person. We've got to be truly curious and not judgmental. It's not this and it's not, oh, that was ugly. We don't want to do that. That's not okay. So what we want to do is get curious in our relationships that are authentic to figure things out. Now, those are skills, but then these are strengths. These two fingers are different. These three get median nerve through your carpal tunnel. These are your skill, and this gives you great sensitivity. These two, all by themselves, they don't do a whole lot. However, pull them in. This is what makes your hand strong and powerful. These are your strength fingers, your fingers of power and strength. They give you a power grip. They allow you to hold on when it's hard, when you're getting to that place. And it's the ulnar nerve. And if you've ever hit your elbow on something, you know where that nerve runs. It's not actually a funny bone, it's ouch. But what's really important about these two, take your thumb over. This is what makes us really be able to do this well for these people, is that we want to operate with compassion. I never want to believe that what is happening is somebody's fault, that it's somebody not trying, that somebody's given. I need to be compassionate about everybody involved here, all the parties involved, because I truly believe, until they show me otherwise, that people are doing the best they can. And even when they do something, they're doing the best they can. It could be a lack of awareness or knowledge or skill, but if I can't do something to help, all I'm going to do is make it worse. So I've got to act with compassion. And then more importantly, at the end of all this, if I don't empower you to be who you're meant to be, if I don't work on empowerment, then I enslave or encapture. And that's not what this is about. All that I do must be done with permission. All that I do must meet your desire to do what you want to do. So we use what we have to build awareness, knowledge, skill with people. And so that we transform things into a more positive care culture. Because until we do that, we aren't going to want to be cared for, and we may not want to be the carer. So there you go. That's the story.
No, yeah, just wonderful, Teepa. And through my, your PAC training, I should say, I've been able to work with the teachers at Down Syndrome of Louisville and really practice exactly what you're talking about. It's been amazing to see the difference in your strategies, when we put them in place, dealing with our aging population.
Mhm.
And as we know, our folks with Down syndrome tend to age quicker. And so we start seeing signs of Alzheimer's. We have some that are in their early 30s, unfortunately, and some in their 40s. And so your vision, your mission is very much a part of Down Syndrome of Louisville, and we really appreciate that.
You are so welcome, and I am so glad, because the other piece that you've brought up, and it's sort of like we haven't talked about, if, as is often the case, I have a child with Down, I typically have that child later in my life. Not uncommon. It's not my first child. It's sometimes my second or my third, and I'm getting close to 40, or I am 40. So by the time my child is 30 to 40 years old, I'm 80. So I'm in a risk category myself. And so this idea that both of us could be living with some brain change. And we know that many of us in the healthcare profession aren't young anymore. I'm just saying.
Right.
We also know that there's a high percent of us that are in that 50 to 70 age group. I mean, we're a big care provider here. So I think as we're looking, we want to be looking in the mirror and then, looking around to see where is my brain maybe changing, and I need support in a way I didn't used to need support. And there's nothing wrong with it as long as we acknowledge it and realize we need our team to come together. It sounds like you guys have done a phenomenal job of acknowledging and becoming aware and then moving forward into skill building. So that's cool.
Yeah. Moving on, I'd like, the GEMS are such an important part of the program, I believe, and something that I've had to practice myself over and over. And I've gotten Beth's help before as well, and just kind of reaching out to her because there are so many overlapping characteristics in each of the GEM stages. Can you talk a little bit about the GEMS? I mean, I love the fact that your quote is, just like GEMS, each person is precious, valuable, and unique, and given the right setting and care can shine. And I love how folks that are changing are compared to our GEMS. Yeah,
so I came up with the GEMS because the only other thing out there was an older system from the Alzheimer's Association. I was the education director in the Alzheimer's Association, was early, middle, and late stage. And it was all based on Alzheimer's. And we know now, wow, there's a lot more to dementia than just Alzheimer's too. We have Lewy body, frontal temporal, vascular. We have herds of these different dementias. But the other issue is that then came along global deterioration, which simply focuses on what's lost. And how's that going to be helpful? Just focusing on what's lost. So what I loved about the model that I chose, which is based on Allen levels, but I say we're in a state of mind at any moment in time. And I come and go in my states of mind. I don't know about you guys. Sometimes I'm awake, sometimes I'm asleep. Sometimes I'm in the moment and I am so going with the flow. And sometimes I'm like, what the heck? I don't know what you want me to do. I can't, leave me alone. I'm done. I'm gonna go outside. I'm finished with this. And, as I have ability, I can I can let you know that in subtle ways. I can say, are we almost finished with this conversation? And then you either pick up on my cue or you don't. And even if you don't, you say, well, we have about, 30 more minutes. I go, oh, 30 minutes. Wow. Okay. That would not be a joyful response. That's sort of like, I know how to control my impulse and not do what I'm thinking, which is 30 minutes. What?
Right, right.
But as my brain might be changing, or as my brain is different, I may not be able to do that. And so you might hear, oh, 30. Well, what is it you need me to do? I had other things to do. I don't see why I should have to stay here. And you knowing what to do in response to that, so that we don't aggravate or poke at, or you don't go, Teepa, you agreed to, I never agreed, which is to signal that, wow, my ability to hold on to data isn't what it was. What I held on to is I was supposed to be here. What I didn't hold on to is how long. Right. So rather than getting frustrated, go, wow, that's an emerald moment, a little flawed, but still green and on the go, but not so good at the detail. Versus, well, I don't understand. Why do I have to be here? You've got Beth. I mean, you don't need me, and you're here. You're supposed to be knowledgeable. That was diamond. Oh, boy, did I cut. But I could also say, oh, Kathy, I'm so glad to be here. I love your hair. You look great. That's when I'm being a nice diamond.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure, Beth, in the nursing field, I'm sure that you use gem states all the time with your patients.
Absolutely.
How does PAC fit into your role, Beth?
Oh, it just being able to identify my own gem state and then know how to respond and help the others that I'm caring for respond as well. And I just want to throw something out there for anyone who this term gems is new. Everyone has their smartphones nowadays. If you go in the app stores, you can get Teepa's gems with videos and learn all kinds of useful ways to interact with the gems and learn more about the gems. It's in the Apple and the Android store.
And you know what would be super cool? It would be super cool if you guys in Louisville, with the collaboration and cooperation of some of your folks living with Down, would be interested in creating some gems demonstration for different gem states for the people who are living with Down syndrome. So we can see it in people who are living with this condition to start with, so that we have a sense of what it's like when somebody already has something that makes them different. Although we're all sort of different, but Yeah. And so then you have something that's closer to the image that you're looking at and the person that you're being with. And that's, so we know sort of someone with Down is not going to look the same as somebody who never lived with Down when dementia gem state Ruby comes up and Coral, just because of what has happened to their bodies over their lifetime and what their coding is. They have low tone in muscles. They are not going to typically develop contractures and patterning in the same exact way. And knowing that really important as a nurse and as a provider and as a family member even.
And for those of you that are listening, I am on teepasnow.com. I'm pulling up different screens. To the right of the screen that I'm sharing right now is the actual app. If you click here, it will take you to the app of the gems. I currently have that on my cell phone as well and refer to it quite often. So it is an absolute great resource for learning the gems. But Teepa, you're right. It would be great to create some videos with our folks. I mean, that makes a lot of sense in different gem states, so that others are aware.
Yeah, so when you do a comparison picture, you're having somebody who is looking at, this is what sapphire looks like. This is what diamond typically looks like. So we're not using a model over here when we're looking at a person over here. And then too many people can't see the image the way they should because they're comparing it to apples and oranges. And we've got apples, and we've got Macintosh, and we've got Red Delicious, and then we have, so we have all kinds of apples, but apples are apples and oranges are oranges. And then we have all kinds of other fruit that they mix.
Yeah. One thing, Teepa, that our parents and ourselves as staff, what we tend to struggle with is whether this is a behavior or is this dementia, Alzheimer's, because several of our folks with Down syndrome do have behavior issues and also underlying health conditions.
Absolutely.
And so it's important for us to rule those out as well before, seeking that professional, a professional saying, hey, we think so-and-so may be at the beginning stages of Alzheimer's.
Yeah, and what's so tricky, Kathy, is we're on the first wave. People who are living with Down are living a full lifespan. I mean, this never used to happen. When I first started out, it was rare to see somebody with Down syndrome live into their 30s because of health issues. We didn't repair cardiac conditions as well and as early. Respiratory problems started up. People were not supported in living life to the fullest, and things didn't happen. There were exceptions, but there were not numbers of people like we have now who are living full, rich, complete lives. And now we're dealing with what happens as we age. Mm-hmm. And people with Downs often have very premature aging. And so with the premature aging, they're just like our aging. There's cataracts, there's visual stuff, there's auditory changes. There's problems with cardiac systems, vascular conditions. There's problems with head injuries that have happened over a lifetime of not having good balance. There's problems with weight gain and obesity and diabetes. So, there's all these complicating factors. And so that idea of building a team of support that helps us see the whole person and appreciate the whole person's normal so that we have a baseline of normal. And is this normal, or is this something that's not normal? And as a not normal, are we seeing it episodically? Do we start to pick on a pattern? What seems to be triggering this expression of distress? And so I use the term expression of distress. People are expressing distress of some sort. And whether it's physical, physiological, emotional, spiritual, sensory, something is causing this distress. So rather than jump immediately, oh, I know what this is. This is this old behavior that you've had before, and it's coming back, and we're going to extinguish this. We're going to fix this baby. And instead it's, so wow, always loved Coca-Cola, and now you're emptying it out on the floor. What the heck? Or you always had one Coca-Cola and were satisfied, and now you're sneaking into the refrigerator and getting extras, and you won't eat your food. What the heck? And that's where my brain immediately goes, wow, primitive brain is getting real active here. Right. Wonder what's stimulating that. Is this something we can do something about, or is this something that is changing and we can't fix it? So we got to modify the support. So guess what we don't need in the refrigerator anymore?
Coke.
Not so much. We need to go to the little things and only have one, and we've run out, and we've got to have a secured area where we can have another one, or we get something else that stimulates. This is the part. It is tricky and it's not easy, but we only can get there if we're curious. As soon as we start doing, I know what's going on, or we think, and that's what happens all too often with professionals who are not as familiar with Down and are not as familiar with dementia and are not as familiar with the person.
Yeah, we have a fella, and he's in his 60s. He's our eldest member at Down Syndrome of Louisville. And Miss Nina is smiling because she knows exactly who I'm talking about. But anyway, we had discovered that a lot of his issues were the depth perception.
Yep.
And unfortunately, one thing we discovered, this was, of course, the building was built before we learned everything about PAC, but our floors in our building, we have our wood floors, the slats are like a light colored one, then a dark colored
one.
Yep. in a dark. And we could not figure out for the longest time why he did not want to walk down that hallway.
Why is he being so resistive? I mean,
Yeah.
what is his problem? This is ridiculous.
Yeah. And of course, it was the depth perception.
Absolutely.
He had this big black mat at the front of our door, at the entrance of our doorway. Yeah, I see you laughing already.
Super helpful.
Yeah, he would not walk into our building. We're like, come on.
Whoa. No. Calm
But
down. You need to calm down. Now stop that. That's ridiculous. What are you doing? No.
Yeah, but once we changed our ways and we adapted for him, things ran much smoother, So
Imagine
we're
that.
learning. Yeah.
Imagine you were scared the crap out of him and trying to push him in a black hole.
Oh gosh, no.
So
No.
because you brought that up, let me just show you real quick. I thought it might be helpful. Take a quick peek here. I'm going to show you sort of what it might look like for him. You see this, right?
Yeah.
You guys got it? Okay. Well, it doesn't take much for people who are in that, what I described as that emerald state flawed. If I look, I may totally miss where I'm walking because I'm busy looking at the green light and the food sign and, oh, good. Oh, that's where I want to go. That I may actually make a mistaken trip trying to go across or not notice what does that green light mean, because that's a thinking skill on top of a visual skill. And that 24, what does 24 mean? I'm so busy looking at the food and oh, look, I'm going over there, that I miss a lot of detail. Or maybe I'm just looking down here and I'm getting real curious about that. What is that? And then let's say, what's the difference between that and that?
Right.
Well, we can see because we're aware of what's around that. That has depth. This doesn't. But not for people who no longer have that capacity. And so being willing to see it from someone else's point of view, all of a sudden compassion and empowerment. Wow. All right. Let's pay attention. So there you go. I mean, that was just a quickie.
Yeah. Also, we and I'm going to share this with you real quick, and then I'm going to stop and see if anybody has questions for you. But your approach that you teach, hand under hand, I mean, it has made a world of difference. The way, the vision and how the visual acuity and how it becomes, smaller and smaller as they're aging, the depth perception, just coming, that approach has been amazing to our folks, and just greeting them, slowly coming up to them, not startling them, reaching the hand out, hoping that they will take it from us. But if they don't, that's okay too. And using that hand under hand approach. I actually have on YouTube and a site where I'm practicing positive approach to care. So it's Kathy Palmer, Positive Approach to Care on YouTube. You guys got to check it out. Don't have a lot of videos, but I do have some videos there where I'm actually practicing with our current members. And so, and I also have some of the training there as well. So the approach, talk a little bit about that, if you would.
Yeah, so about 30 years ago, I was working with people with developmental disabilities, as well as elders and people who've had head injuries and strokes. So I was working in neuro. And what I noticed was how different people responded if they could figure out what I was trying to get them to do or how I was trying to do something. And I started noticing that a lot of care providers would get right in front of somebody, really close, lean in and say things right in their face. And then suddenly, oh, geez, because what you can't do, just as those folks couldn't do, is see what their hands were up to. Their face was saying, hey, okay. And the person would go, okay, not knowing what it was, and suddenly hands are on clothing or trying to pull pants down or shoving something in your mouth. And it's like, where did that come from? Well, it came from here. So I started noticing what happened if instead I turned my body sideways a little distant, turned my face and went, hey. And I got you to notice both this area here and my face. And we were equal. It's parallel. And I could go, oh, hey, Kathy. Drink. Kathy, you? Here. Now, if I offer my hand and you take my hand, then what we can do is together, I can bring the cup up. And what I started finding is, wow, what a difference that made. And as I was doing that, people were watching and say, why don't you have trouble with it? And I had to come up with why was that? Because at first I didn't know. I just knew that I was very successful and other folks weren't. And then I started realizing, oh. So once I figured that out, then I started helping people get that. And it was positive physical approach. And then it was the hand under hand, that not doing things to people, but doing things with people. So we're connected. And figuring that out, really not hand over hand, where I feel like I'm forcing your hand to do something. So it was a learning process for me that once I learned it and figured it out, I started offering it out and other people would go, oh, it works. And it's like, yay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just amazing the difference that approach makes for our folks. Really puts them at ease.
And it gives you some feedback, Kathy. The other thing, know, if they are at ease, they don't have to hurt you or yell at you or spit at you. They can simply give you a hand cue or a body cue that says, I'm not getting, I don't want what you have, or I don't get it.
Right. I'd like to share one of my clips real quick, if that's okay with you.
It's your show. I'm just here to visit.
I'm just so glad you're here. Honestly, you're just amazing. You've made such a difference. Okay, so can everybody see that?
It's all, if you're the one making the difference in Louisville, Kathy. I don't know how to break this to you, but I'm actually not doing much in Louisville right now. You and Beth seem to be doing quite a bit. I'm just sitting here in North Carolina, frankly.
Well, we'd like to have you come back out to Kentucky at some point.
I would love to go anywhere, frankly.
I know with COVID. Yeah. But so I'm going to share one of my videos. This is my site on YouTube, where I do use the positive physical approach.
Kathy, how are you? You sit my eyes. How are you? Yeah, let's put this down. You sit my eyes. Yeah, I sure did.
And we're watching a video because we are doing the podcast of where I'm approaching a member at the front desk of our building and checking her lunch.
Yeah.
And she loves us to check her lunch every morning.
Yeah. Okay, let's get your stuff. Get your stuff. I'll help you with that.
And I'm thinking, Kathy,
it's
very
hand. However, it makes her feel like she's carrying it down the hallway.
Absolutely. And Kathy, I'm betting
some gait issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was supporting her down the hallway.
Kathy, I'm gonna bet. Oops.
Miss Kathy, I don't know if you can hear me, but you're breaking up a little bit.
I'm betting when Kathy did the videos, it affected her bandwidth.
Yeah, yes, I think so too.
So what I was going to ask Kathy, I was curious. I'm wondering whether if you didn't celebrate with her the checking of the lunch and transition it to mobility, how many times would we go over the lunch thing and not be able to break the cycle of the lunch and move forward into the transition down the hall? Because hand under hand is really powerful, along with that celebration with transitions and the transition from one activity to another. And that's often where people get stuck. They just cycle around and cycle around and cycle around. And it's like, okay, we're done with the celebration. Let's down the hall. And it feels sort of like, come on. And instead it feels like, oh, cool, come on. And here we go. Yeah, it's a very different feel.
That is one of the most important parts of her day, is just celebrating that lunch. She, one of the things that she is working on is packing healthy lunches and bringing them to DSL. And that's a whole nother topic, Teepa, because we know nutrition is so important when it comes to dementia and Alzheimer's.
Exercise and nutrition, exercise and nutrition. Yeah, activity rather.
Yeah. But, just giving her that one-on-one attention and starting her day off on the right foot really helps to lead her day into, having a good day. And it makes a difference. For sure. And you discovered the magic. And that's the magic, is the relationship. Yeah, it truly is. It truly is. And our teachers at DSL are just amazing at forming those relationships. And getting to know all of our members so personally, and knowing what makes them tick and what doesn't, and where to press and where to stop, and when to hug and when to hug, because sometimes the best thing in the world is a deep pressure hug and a deep breath, because sometimes things are just getting hard, and pausing and giving some really deep pressure and then letting it go. Right. Yeah, exactly. I've got some, let me just stop here real quick. And if anybody has a question for Teepa or Beth, and you'd like to ask her, this would be a wonderful time to do that.
Our chat is open if anyone would like to type in the chat, but also I have a question while we're waiting for folks to chat. Ms. Teepa, do you have any suggestions for our members that might be joining us virtually, our aging members that might be joining us virtually, of tips on, since we're not right there with them, tips on how to, ensure that we're serving them well?
One of the things I'd say is, if things aren't feeling good, call a pause and go, whoa, this isn't feeling right. I don't know what's up, but something's not right. And one of the things I emphasize is cause no harm. And unless it's an absolute medical emergency or danger, often when we move forward without having a firm appreciation for connection, what we end up doing is making things worse. So if what I'm doing doesn't seem to be working well, taking a second and going, okay, this isn't working. Okay, let me think. This isn't working. Let me take a step back to see if I can figure this out before I move forward. Because our tendency is to try to use our voice or our presence, but once again, without realizing, it often turns into a weapon because we're not getting what we like or want. So being really tuned into, wow, this isn't what I thought was going to happen. I'm surprised. So I need to acknowledge, wow, that was a surprise. I didn't expect her to slap me. Because I've always been closer. She's always been okay with that. I mean, I've never had that in a bathroom where she did that. I was trying to help her with her shower. She's used to me. It's not that, but suddenly, whoa, she slung that washcloth, and she did it with purpose. She didn't like that. And it's like, oh, wonder what happened there. And rather than, Beth, we don't do that. What are you doing? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Now, is that like mom voice?
Yeah.
Or the teacher voice. I'm very good at the teacher voice. So instead go, wow, man, you did not like what I did. Wow. Okay.
Let's figure out why. Yes.
Yeah. Ow. ow, that hurt. I also want to check out in that moment, is she able to see my point of view? And if she says, I'm sorry, then I know she's now aware of me and is processing me differently than she was a few seconds ago. Before I was a threat, now I'm not.
Hmm.
And where does my hand need to be? Up where she can see them.
Absolutely.
Need to be. So that's an idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Miss Kathy, I was hearing some reverb. That's why I muted you. I just wanted you to know that's why I muted you. I was hearing an echo. Okay, so we have some questions. One is, what foods help with progression, immune boosters, supplements? Do you have any tips on that?
What we know is glucose is not our friend. That's the first message. The problem is our primitive brain loves it. I mean, it so craves it because it's a quick fix. It's a quick energy source. That and sodium. Sodium and glucose are our two probably most dangerous things that we get into the habit of taking in when we get stressed. So looking at how can I provide a little but not too much, and what else should I put in there? And this is where eating things that are rich in a vitamin E, rich in antioxidants, eating that and taking it in. We found out a while back that taking vitamin supplements for many of these things doesn't work as well as simply having a decent diet. And we could indeed move to smoothies, but we want to actually take in not only what we're taking in, but how much. Because it turns out, unfortunately, for almost all of us, as we age, we need less intake as we get older. Because too many of us are not as active as we used to be when we were 25. I mean, I hate saying this, but you know, this is a challenge. We also want to recognize that my ability to enjoy chewing and to get from chewing what I got from it before, I may either want to put more chewing in there and grinding kinds of things, which may not be good for my teeth. And I may not be as skilled at it, or I may not like texture like that anymore. Mm-hmm. So looking at how to get my nourishment in and looking at when in the day is a good time and whether we want to move into smaller but more frequent meals because my brain can't handle doing without for too long. And then it gets frantic and thinks it's not going to get anything. And so the possibility of smaller amounts but more frequently starts to be something to think about. But in general, your mom was right. You know, you want to limit how much, but you should have some measure of enjoyment, or what are we saving ourselves for?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. I have another question here. It says, how can we support those battling dementia and their caretakers from afar? With COVID limiting our contact, gosh, I miss those deep pressure hugs. Do you have any advice on how we can continue supporting during this difficult time?
Yeah, getting really good at using Zoom as something that's fun and interesting. Ooh, check this out, huh? Pretty colors, yeah? Yeah? Ooh, and it says, we love you. We love you. Oh, I miss you. Oh, listen. I love you, a bushel and a peck, a bushel and a
peck,
and a
hug around the neck.
Yeah, a bear and a he. So what I'm saying is we've got to get to be masters of sharing whatever we can share, however we can share. And we've got to get good at the thing we do have available, whether it's music and song or visuals or memories, a picture of us together, or the moments that we can do things in parallel. So I have something, you have something, and I started with, ooh, hey, Beth, look at that. Watch. Here we go, watch.
Ah, a bead.
A bead, you got it. And I'm pulling it down and pulling it down and pulling it down. Look at this.
Wow.
I got the first one. Oh, now you have a bowl and your partner there has a bowl for you. And we're going to do it again. Look at that. You got it all the way. Big arm, Beth, reach out. You got it. Because what are we working on now?
Stretching.
Stretching and fine motor and attention to task and having fun and eye hand. And so at a distance, is it easy? Not as easy, but I could still do stuff if I know you and your partner and we work together.
Yes. I happen to coach our Down syndrome of Louisville dance team, and we have a lot of squeezing and hugging ourselves in our dance and our choreography. Yep. There's a lot of self hugs happening.
Yeah. And sometimes, now, how many of you have gotten curious about what I'm doing here? Mm-hmm. And so then I bring it up and I show it to you.
Oh,
yeah, it's pretty. Look, Beth, blue.
Oh, blue.
And
blue. Oh, red.
Red and
is that emerald?
That's an emerald. You did great. Yes. So now what are we working on? Language, object recognition, color recognition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just saying.
Hey, great tips.
Teepa and Beth, just real quick, I wanted to kind of intervene. We talk about music all the time, and how rhythm and music are one of the last things to go. Yeah. Our eldest member that I talked about earlier, he loves his music. He loves country music and John Wayne, and it provokes and it brings back memories for him. There was one instance when he was listening to some music, and Nina, you might even want to talk about this for a second, where he was listening to music and it actually brought tears to his face, provoking those memories. And so we know that rhythm and music stay with us to the very end. And our folks happen to love, like Carly with her Boogie Down crew, and the music that they use. Our folks love music. They love dance parties. They love celebrating. And so music is a big part of their life. Yeah. You look great, Teepa.
She put her country western hat on.
You said John Wayne, and I know, partner. Work with me.
Yeah. I have a question. I think this one is going to go to Miss Beth. This says, our son is 31. He has worn hearing aids since he was 8. His hearing will most likely disappear in the years ahead. We never learn to sign. He can read at around a 2nd grade level, but hates to write. Are there any tips on dealing with deafness?
So I would say, as people, we know that they lose language skills and comprehension and speech production. So as people age with dementia, using our body as gestures. So as Teepa was showing earlier, gesture about a drink or stand up. So it's going to be using big body movements in their visual field, being in their visual field range to make sure that you can communicate. I love to tell a story. One of the best days I ever had at work was when I lost my voice, because as a dementia educator, I know less words, more nonverbals and gestures is easier for people to communicate, for people living with dementia to respond to. And I had a great night with my residents because I could only use my gestures and I couldn't use my voice.
And Beth, we find that works the best with our folks as well. Limited verbal language, using a lot of cues, very, 1-2 word phrases, instead of putting all the mumble jumble in there that confuses them or upsets them. So
great.
So the one added piece I'd bring is we want to make sure that he gets to see us at a slight distance. so he feels safe. And we always swing around and make sure. Before we move in, because otherwise we could really surprise him with a touch or with a movement that causes distress. And then we view him as being a problem when in fact we're the problem for him because of the loss of hearing. And when you don't have that, you have to use vision, and we're not respecting the limitation that he's now living with.
I have a question about, we have some of our members who are, have dementia or, or maybe emeralds or diamonds. How would you explain it to the other members who don't understand that they might be going through some aging? I'm specifically thinking of wet kisses and not liking the wet kisses or the hugs, and trying to explain to them that someone else might be not able to understand, so that you don't like that.
Yeah. So the first is to acknowledge their reaction. Beth, ugh, for you, ugh, you don't like that.
I don't like it.
Kathy loves to you. She loves to kiss you, but you don't like it.
No, I don't like it.
Do you love Kathy?
Yeah, Kathy, I love
I
Kathy.
know. She loves you, and she wants to you, and she can't not.
Ugh.
Oh, how about you hand her a cloth? Could you, if you hand her a cloth and you show her, wipe, and hand the cloth. Then can we try? Can we try, Beth?
Okay, I'll try.
I'm the third party. So what am I doing? I'm seeing whether or not I can get Beth to learn to offer Kathy the cloth so she'll wipe and then kiss. Because Beth likes Kathy. They've always been good friends, but Kathy's never had problems with managing saliva before. She does now, or maybe she always does, but now it's worse. And so what we want to do is give Beth a way to still have a relationship with Kathy, if at all possible. So maybe what we do is start putting a bandana on Kathy and have Beth have a bandana on. And so Beth shows wiping and Kathy gets the cue and now can kiss Beth. It's a thought. I mean, it's worth,
Yeah, love it.
It's an explore where we're sustaining a relationship by building some skill. And we don't know, it could be one of us going, we all have bandanas on. And all of us are starting to be a little more tuned in to helping the wet kiss turn into a acceptable kiss.
Yeah, I love it.
You know, not always, but maybe,
Thank
because
you.
we all need affection.
Yeah, we sure do.
So I've got to head out. I have another person who's looking forward to talking to me in a little bit. I want to say thank you for having me, Kathy and gang and Beth. It was good seeing everybody. And, you know, the person I really want to say I loved seeing was Megan. She has, you guys can't top the list. I'm sorry. You're just not as appealing as Megan. I'm watching the rest of you, and Megan, I'm having a lot more fun with. You guys are like, okay, Megan's showing me the love. So Megan, you and I, here we go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Megan, and thanks, Kathy. Thanks, everybody, for the welcome.
Thank you, Miss Teepa. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Oh, just what an amazing woman, and just I can't say enough about her and her PAC program. Beth, I'm going to turn it over to you for just a few minutes. I know you haven't been able to talk much, which is okay. We've enjoyed hearing from Teepa, of course, but we have just a few minutes left. Is there, say some final words about PAC, or, you know, why are you so passionate about PAC?
as I've been a nurse for over 20 years, and also like Teepa, I have also worked in the same field of people with disabilities. My husband's worked at a group home called Friendship Community for over 30 years. So our house has been around both populations. It's just a norm here for us. So being able to connect and have that deep relationship with people with changing brains has just been the world for me. As a nurse, just to hear someone be frustrated with someone that's doing the best they can is not acceptable. We're all doing the best we can at the end of the day, right? We're all doing the best that we can. So using positive approach to care gave me words to train and help explain to others what I was doing. So it just has made a difference. Makes going to work so much fun and building those relationships. You just can't replace it.
I completely agree with you, Beth, because, you know, at some points it used to be frustrating dealing with our folks that were aging until we learned the practices of PAC and become more educated and really use those practices and see the difference that they do make with our folks.
And being aware that we need to change because they can't. They are changing, but they can't control how they're changing, but we can control it because we have the healthy brain.
Yeah. And I think that's tough for the average person. You know, it's tough to be the one that has to change, especially when you're living it day to day and that, you know, you're the caregiver or care partner and you're taking care of that person day in and day out. And so one part of my job that I love is just talking with parents and offering suggestions and teaching them a new approach, and go home and try it. And then they come back to me and they're like, Kathy, it worked. It may not always work. We know that, but you know, it works. And then their stress level starts to go down. So,
when I notice that things don't work, Kathy, is when I think, oh, this isn't going to work. So again, bringing it back to me and being in control of my emotional state and how I'm coming across. So.
Yeah. It's really important. Very important. So Beth, I appreciate you so much popping in this morning and just sharing your wealth of knowledge, you and Teepa, both of you. And you know, just thank you for being such a great mentor for me over the past couple of years. And I know our relationship is going to continue that way. So
thank you for all that you guys are doing in Louisville. You guys are amazing. Thank you, Megan.
Megan, you want to show them? We've been virtual for many months now. What do we say at the end of a session? We say, thank you, thank you, thank you. We love you, we love you, we love you. And we do our heart. Yeah. Yes. Awesome. Yes. Thank you, Beth. Thank you so much, Kathy. This has been fabulous. Anyone that's here on this session with us, or maybe you're listening on the podcast, do not hesitate. Do not hesitate to reach out to us. You can email Kathy. I'll put everything in the show notes, but you can email info@downsyndromeoflouisville.org. We're always available to you, and if we don't know, then we can reach out to Miss Teepa or Miss Beth. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Megan, would you like to say thank you? Here we go. I'm unmuting everybody. You say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
You.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye, Somerton.
Bye, Megan. Love you, honey.
You too.
Okay, so Megan and Scott, hi guys. I'm gonna talk to Miss Kathy some more, so can you push your red end button for me? And don't, you have to promise though, before you push the red end button, you're not gonna come back on, because I'm gonna be talking to Miss Kathy and we're recording, okay? So don't come back on. Okay, push the red end button. Do you see it?
Yes.
Okay, push it. Bye. See you soon. Have a good weekend.
Bye, you all.
Bye. Scott, do you see your red end button? Push it. Boop. So you can leave. Good job. And it might say leave meeting. You see it, Scott? It says leave meeting. It's red. Yeah. We'll see you soon. Bye. Okay.
There we
I did it. I removed it. Okay. He might try to. Here, let me turn the waiting room on. He might try to come back. Okay. That was awesome. Yay.
Awesome. That
It was so good.
Carly. Yes.
My
armpits are like crazy.
It was so great. There was something I was going to.
Of course, I didn't get to share everything I wanted to, and that's okay. It made me feel better that I had planned a bunch of things, but
yeah. Well, the other thing that we could do is, like, I mean, are you free right now? You and I could keep talking if you want.
Yeah.
Okay, let me stop this recording and then we'll start another one.
Okay.
Okay, so I have Kathy back here. There's just so much information I wanted to be able to continue talking about this. All of this awesome aging stuff. Kathy had some information that she wanted to share, and Miss Teepa was just so informative that that we didn't get to all of it. So, do you want to?
Yeah, if I could just
some of
share
these-
a few things
Yeah.
that I think would be really beneficial for our parents or anybody that tuned in today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see here.
Is it working?
Okay. One site that I did want to bring up to everybody and just let you know that it's out there is called Dsc2u.org, and it is the number 2 when you're putting that in your web browser. This site is so important because, I feel like there are not a lot of experts in our medical field that deal with folks with Down syndrome on a daily basis. They may see 1 or 2 come their way. But in general, being a physician is hard. They're constantly learning and hopefully learning more about Down syndrome. But with Dsc2u, it's a personalized care plan that you can actually take to your physician with your child, son or daughter, adult, that goes through just their lifespan. And if I can share with you a sample report of what that looks like.
Yeah, so like in this Dsc2u, which is DSC, the number 2, and then the letter U, Down Syndrome Clinic to You, it's like a big long survey that you only have to do every once, like if you want to do it once a year, if there's been changes in your child's life or adult's life, then you fill it out, and then this is like a printout that happens.
Mm-hmm. And so, it's a personalized checklist of information, resources, and recommendation that you can take to your physician with you. It is generated by a computer, so just kind of keep that in mind. The checklist was not prepared or reviewed by a clinician specifically for possibly somebody with Down syndrome, but it is a team of medical experts that are nationally, in their healthcare guidelines, and they know specifically about Down syndrome. And so the checklist helps to establish a healthcare provider-patient relationship. And if you look down at the bottom, after this person filled out the checklist, it gives recommendations that you can take to your physician with you. So for example, this top one here where it says audiogram hearing test, says Allison, and that, that's a pretend person. Allison is due for her hearing test. And it also gives you a little link. It says more information on hearing loss and Down syndrome. And you can click on these links. It also gives you some information underneath why up to 75 of every 100 individuals with Down syndrome have hearing loss. And so it was indicated in her checklist that she did not have an audiogram within the past year. And so they do recommend that. And if you continue, it covers her eye exam, sleep studies, because we know that sleep apnea affects most of our folks. Same with thyroid function tests. And it breaks it apart into different sections. So here's a section on new or known conditions and diagnosis. It looks like Allison has possible OCD behaviors. She has dry skin, and that's something that's common in folks with Down syndrome. She has acne, seasonal allergies. It goes through her, honestly, through her whole life. Health and wellness resources on sexual development, food assistance. It also recommends nutrition for Allison, on down into even life skills, and what Allison needs to work on, like finding her doctor's phone number. It gives you, again, the resources to help you find all of these different specific life skills. So these printouts, these that you take to your physician are full of lots of great information on the person with Down syndrome, and can really help the physician. Along with this, let me see here. Along with this, if I can go back, is a printout for the physician as well. Very easy to read, nothing complicated. And it says, "Dear Dr. Ryan," gives the date of birth and the person that he or she is seeing, and it gives a personalized checklist for Allison's provider. And again, goes through all of those things that the doctor may need to check for Allison, suggestions for her, again, going through her entire life history. So I feel like Dsc2u, again, it's the number 2, is very important for our folks.
Yeah, absolutely. And this service right now is not free to the user, but you pay for it, probably once a year. I think you can get a subscription, but if you are a Down syndrome of Louisville family that's listening to this, we do have coupon codes, so you can reach out and get, I think it's $10 off of the service. But it's definitely, especially if you, I feel like it's especially important for adult families, because a lot of our, once you're done with your pediatrician, sometimes you go to this, a new general practitioner that might not have much experience with individuals with Down syndrome. And this is just a really good guide for them, to, for you to say, these are all the things I want you to check on. So again, that's Dsc2u, and the 2 is a number and the U is a letter, and I'll put that in the show notes as well.
Yeah. And they are trying to get it covered by insurance. That's something.
Yeah, in some states it is covered by insurance. It's just not covered in Indiana or Kentucky right now, if you do live in this area. That's a great resource, Miss Kathy. Thank you.
Super, super helpful, I think, for our folks and our families. Also wanted to share, let me see here. Sorry, I'm kind of clicking, guys, through all of my sites. And this happens to be through the National Down Syndrome Society. So the website for that is N as in Nancy, D as in David, S as in Sally, and S as in Sam, ndss.org. If you go onto their website, and we are affiliated with NDSS through Down Syndrome of Louisville. What this is the Alzheimer's disease and Down syndrome practical guidebook for caregivers. So we know our caregivers are always looking for information and ways to help their loved one with with Alzheimer's. So the guidebook is a great resource. You can see here in the table of contents that it covers just about everything. There's an explanation for. And something that I wanted to point out is, and of course, I'm still learning myself, what is the connection between Down syndrome and Alzheimer's disease? And, basically it's a buildup of proteins, abnormal proteins on that 21st chromosome that builds up plaques and tangles along the way. And so Alzheimer's disease and Down syndrome share a unique genetic connection, which makes our folks more prevalent for developing Alzheimer's and dementia.
So that's why there's such a high percentage of
Yes.
individuals with Down syndrome, because that plaque buildup and tangles is on the extra chromosome.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah. So, something that I'm still researching about, but it's just very interesting. Our folks, about 80% of our folks will end up developing aging signs. But that
Did you say 80%?
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it's very high because of trisomy 21.
Mm-hmm. Because of that extra chromosome. Well,
Right.
I also know that because of individuals with Down syndrome, we are helping the research. The Down syndrome community is helping the research of Alzheimer's. Like, just it's incredible how much.
Right.
Our members. I'm not being able to find my words, but our members are. Truly helping the scientific world figure things out of why it's happening, and are kind of leading the way as far as these research facilities, and they're learning so much because of individuals with Down syndrome.
Yeah, exactly. Let me see here. There was one other thing that you had mentioned earlier, Carly, in our podcast about U of K and our relationship with U of K.
Which is University of Kentucky, for anyone who doesn't.
Right. Talk a little bit about that while I pull up the site, would you please?
Sure. So University of Kentucky has, I don't know how many years the program's been happening, but they have been researching the correlation between Down syndrome and Alzheimer's for many years. And so because we are so close to UK here in Louisville, many of our Louisville members are a part of this research study. And so as early as 25, they're registering to be a part of this research study. And so if anyone's listening and you are interested in putting your son or daughter or loved one in this research program, they could really help make a difference.
Right. Yeah. I've pulled up their website, and it is the UK Sanders Brown Aging Center. It's Aging and Down Syndrome Research Study, and you can go on their website that we are involved in and get more information on that. And so, I'm just reading right off the website for those of you listening. Researchers at U of K are seeking to understand how aging and Down syndrome may affect a person's memory and thinking as they get older. The goals of the project are to follow neurological learning and memory changes in adults with Down syndrome as they age, to examine brain changes using MRIs, and to measure blood biomarkers. And so, as Carly mentioned, persons with Down syndrome, age 25 and older, with or without signs of Alzheimer's disease.
So yeah, that's a huge one. They don't have to be showing
Right.
signs. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And why should you join? You join because you are helping to change the difference in the lives of folks with Down syndrome. You're allowing us to, UK to do research and put that out there for folks. A great website, and I'm just clicking on a link that's on the actual page that I pulled up. And again, it's under the Sanders Brown Center on Aging through UK, University of Kentucky. It goes through the study with you. On their resources page, you can see, here we are, Down syndrome of Louisville is part of the research. And again, up at the top, we went through that DS Connect, the Down syndrome registry. So lots of good resources that they also offer on their sites.
I'll be sure to put all of these in the show notes as well. And when we pop up a blog about, with this Zoom call, this recorded Zoom call, I'll be sure to put all of these links in there, so we've got them all.
Yeah.
So real quick, I'm gonna stop it and start it again, because this one I might link onto the one with Teepa. So I'm very curious about the gems, and we covered them a tiny bit with Miss Teepa, but can you explain to me? So it's instead of saying like early onset, we're saying a gem instead of saying early onset Alzheimer's or late Alzheimer's, or it's kind of almost in the same way that, the autism is on a spectrum, so is dementia and Alzheimer's. And instead of saying low functioning, high functioning, because we don't want to say that anymore, it's more, we refer to the different, in quotes, stages of dementia and Alzheimer's with these gem colors. Is that right? Am I grasping that? Okay.
Yeah. Yes, exactly right, Carly. Gone are the days where we label things, like you said. Just like, we don't call our folks a person with Downs. That's a no-no. They have Down syndrome, but that doesn't make them who they are, So that's the same thing with Teepa's gems. She goes through a series of gems. They're sparkly, they're shiny. Again, we want to work with our folks with what they have left in them. We want to make that shine. We want to make them bright. We want to make them feel good about the rest of the life that they have. And so Teepa has created her gems, as she was talking about earlier in the podcast, and what those gems, what the characteristics of each of those gems are related to somebody with Alzheimer's. And she takes you through those in lots of description. And through my training with Beth Tesfaye, we had to do a lot of role play with those gems, because it can be challenging to decipher where somebody is, on that chart. But gems is a great way of just making it, I hate to say sound better, but
being aware, but it's almost like focusing on the positive rather than the negative. Yeah.
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
I like that.
And
then the other thing I wanted to mention is, which I might be able to even go back in and explain to the listener what she was doing, but the positive approach to care, it was all on a hand. So she was holding up her hand and she was pointing to her fingers, and essentially she was saying, we don't want to use two fingers. We want it to be the entire hand, and they were representing all these amazing things. And when we work together, then it works,
Yeah.
So I might even,
these three fingers, your thumb and your two first fingers, those are your skill fingers as you're picking and, buttoning, zipping, feeding yourself, all of those different skills that you use with these 3 fingers. And then these are your, here we go, your last 2 are your strength and where your strength comes from. So,
Okay.
And again, like she was saying, one of her representations was, we want to be side by side. We want to work together, you know, sometimes helping each other. And she kind of went,
so we're crossing our fingers.
Yes.
You know, one person might be helping the other, and then she would switch her fingers, and you know, it might be that they're helping you and you're helping them.
Right. One good example of this was, you know, on YouTube, on my website for Positive Approach to Care, I do an example where I'm helping somebody feed themselves. And again, you're using those skill fingers, but I'm also holding that person's hand. Their hand is actually on top of mine, because that's the approach. You want them to be on top, feeling like they're still in control of their life. And you're assisting and you're helping, and you're just making that process easier for them, but you're still giving them their independence and you know, that sense of accomplishment in life. And they're still living, and we want to make that shine. We want that to come through.
Something that keeps coming up anytime that that I hear, you know, we a lot of times in education you hear hand over hand, but with Teepa she says hand under hand, because you know, it gives the person, you know, the control and the support. But I have like a visceral, like physical memory from my childhood, and it comes up all the time. I don't know, but especially when that phrase is used, you know, the hand under hand, of my dad teaching me how to play baseball when I was young. I mean, maybe 3, maybe 4, and I'm holding the bat, or he's holding the bat, but my hands were on top of his hands, and I can physically feel, oops, I just punched the microphone. I can physically feel him, like, I'm trying to show you and explain at the same time, but like him, like choking the bat, like, you know, that, you know how baseball players choke the bat? I can like physically feel him doing that, and then like, you know, getting ready to swing or whatever. And then the actual feeling of him, but it was me swinging that bat. And like, you know, anytime I see a dad or, you know, whoever, teaching a kid how to play baseball, or I'll see my dad teaching another one of our little family members how to play baseball, like I have that physical memory. I know exactly what that feels like, you know? So anyway, I never took to baseball, but somehow I know how, you know, when I'm watching, I know what that feels like. So anyway, it is very important to have, like, you know, obviously I understand how that can make you feel like you're doing it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you were so proud of yourself, even though dad was assisting, you were still completing the motions and doing it with him. And it just makes you feel so proud of yourself in that moment. So, and that's what we want to do with our folks.
Yeah.
And, you know, whether they have Alzheimer's or not, I mean, the PAC program is excellent for anybody. Typical people like you and I aging as well.
Yes.
I mean, so I think it's really important to put that out there as well, that, you know, it's not just for a certain community or population.
Or even just, you know, some of the tips that I hear, you know, I hear from her or from you when you're training us, it's like, this is not just for, you know, the aging population, but also, I mean, these tips are really amazing for our younger members who have Down syndrome. And, you know, I mean, even just the mindset of, if we're seeing someone have a behavior, don't just, you know, get mad and kick them out of class or whatever. I mean, no one's been doing that, but I'm saying, like, okay, let's really look at this, and why do we think that this person is behaving this way? What can I do to make sure, you know, maybe they need something to be one-on-one. Maybe it's loud in the room. Maybe, you know, maybe it's too busy. There's too much going on, you know, virtually. Maybe there's too much going on in the background. Maybe I need to take this picture off the wall. You know, maybe it's too noisy. Maybe their friend's microphone is buzzing, you know, like it could be so many things, but instead of getting mad or, you know, like reacting to that, then let's see what we can do to help this person. And that's really what we're here for.
Right.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and for teachers that are, you know, might be struggling with, someone in NTI, or which is non-traditional instruction, same kind of thing, or parents who might be struggling with virtual school, or you know, even when school is in session, just kind of taking a step back and thinking about, okay, you know, what's really going on here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it really is best practice for everybody. You know, and I hope that as I age, there will be somebody in my life that can use these practices and that treat me with respect and give me my self-dignity, and honor, you know, the things that I can still do independently.
Yes.
Fits me with that, because that's the kind of life I want.
Right. What are your tips on fantasy world? That's something that happens a lot with our members, that daydreaming is confused with things that are real and not real. And I know that sometimes with, you know, with dementia or Alzheimer's, like, you know, someone will think that you're the queen, or, you know, like whatever it may be. What are the tips about that?
The tips are join them. Join them, honestly. If it's not hurting them in any way, if it's not interfering with their life in general and their day-to-day, you know, structure or, you know, schedule of their day, join them. They appreciate that, you know, instead of trying to change them and tell them that, hey, that's not real. Like, why are you talking that way? Stop. Join them.
We've got a member who tells everyone that I'm her sister. And with her, I almost just am like, yeah, sister. And then I just make sure that, you know, later on, I'm like, by the way, we're not really sisters. Because then I'll start, you know, hearing reports back because I'm the sister. Like, I'm not legally her sister. But
and I think, you know, because earlier in the podcast you had asked about some of that, and I think it's just all going back to educating everybody, you know, and making everybody aware. And, you know, our folks are smarter than you think. They know you're not her sister, but it's just the way that you react to that person, and how you carry yourself and how you can support that person through that situation, is what makes the difference. So, yeah. But Carly, I've had a great time.
Yay,
today.
thank you so much.
Yes, we've got lots of good information to share, and I can't wait, you know, to put it out there for everyone.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. And we'll have you back very soon, to talk about some of the other things that you're an expert on. Thank you so much, Kathy.
Thank you, Carly. All right, bye.
Okay, I ended that, and now I'm ending this. Thanks, everybody. If you've hung out with us this whole time.